Welcome to the Rise to the Challenge podcast. Joined today, he's a blogger, former military veteran, and adventurous individual. It's Adam Rivera. How you doing today, Adam?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Doing so good. We're so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what were you involved in growing up?
All right. Well, I was born and raised in Tampa, Florida. I was blessed to have a twin brother and a mother who has been active since before we were born. She's done every sport known to man in high school, and she actually used to do 5K runs while pregnant with me, my brother.
Wow.
She's currently to this day a PE coach, and she's been a PE coach since we were children. So she's put us in every single sport from speed skating. My twin brother is actually a national speed skating champion. Basketball, football, soccer, track was my favorite, and I then started triathlons. Which my first triathlon, I didn't even know what a triathlon was, and I ended up coming in first place. I just was following what the people were telling me to go left, go right, and I fell in first place. And that feeling was so amazing that I've been doing triathlon since. So I'm an avid cyclist. I will do 20 to 40 miles every day and still be hungry for more. In doing that, I was a lot of sports. So I learned about how the body moves and how, how struggle makes strength. When you go to the gym, 5 pounds, you're not doing much. So you have to raise the struggle to add strength. So it pushed me. And I joined the military at 20 years old, and I went to Iraq, Afghanistan. After that, I moved to Arizona for a little bit, and that's where I can ride for days on end without even stopping. And then I moved to Florida, where I was a private investigator. I did armed security for celebrities and for colleges, and did a little bit of hospitality, and then started doing tower climbing, which I petrified of heights and petrified of wasp. And yet I did that for 2 years until I got hurt. So yeah, that's just a little brief background of my history.
I think when you were listing all the sports, Tampa, Florida, and speed skating is definitely two that don't go together. Because is this on the ice speed skating, I'm assuming?
So
Or is it
actually
inline?
it's inline.
Okay,
But
now it makes sense.
it makes perfect sense. So they still have inline, they still have ice speed skating. It's just really rare because you have to go to like a hockey stadium or whatever. So the teams, they're spread a lot farther. So it's a lot harder. But even the most recent female who won the gold medal, my brother actually used to race her on inlines.
Oh,
A long
nice.
time ago. So it's really cool how people, you get the basic skills on the wheels, and then you just transfer to just a different. All you do is you change the frame from the rollerblades to the blades. So
I love that. I think going back when I was younger, I would probably be better inline than be on the ice. Knowing me, I'd be flying around with rollerblades and stuff. I wish that was an option back then. No one knew about it until you find the hidden gem somewhere.
Well, we actually found it on accident. So, like I said, my mom was a PE coach, and she would hold these events once a year or twice a year, for the kids to be active. So she had this event at the skating rink, and we were out there, dancing or whatever. And once it was time to go, they turned the lights on, cut the music off. And me and my brother, we were taking off our skates, and you hear a whistle blow, and you see all these people in these skin suits getting on the floor, and they're just flying. And I've never seen anything like this in my life. I think I was 11 years old. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And it was so cool, and seeing how fast they were going. And I looked at my mom, and my mom just happened to know the coach. I guess he went to school with her. So she introduced us. And that weekend, we were in skates on the floor, and we did that. I did it for about maybe 4 years. And then my brother, that he did it until 18, 19 years old. Probably longer than that, but then he needed to work. So he stopped competing in that sense, and he was just doing it for exercise.
Growing up, did you and your brother get along, especially with twins? Sometimes you can read each other's minds. You guys know what each other are thinking. Was that the bond you guys had, or what type of bond did you guys share?
The bond we had was exactly what you hear on TV. I would know I can be homesick at home
Hmm.
and he would be at school and I would know if something was wrong at school.
Wow.
Long before we had, caller ID, I would know when my brother's calling the house just by the ring. Yeah, oh, that's Austin calling. My mom she used to freak out, like, oh, how did you know? And I'm like, I don't know. It's Austin. So I don't, so we've always been really, really, really close. We've never put our hands on each other. We would argue a lot because he's 2 minutes older than me. So he would always try to pull the I'm older than you. You gotta listen to what I say. And no, you're older than me because I was scared and I pushed you out. No. So but other than that, our relationship has always been very, very strong. Like even my mom, she has pictures of us everywhere.
Oh,
And like I have pictures all around this room, just me and my brother, because we're connected by the hip. I can be all the way in Hawaii. Well, funny story. I was in Hawaii. My brother was in Tampa, Florida. I had a football game that I needed to go to. So I bought cleats and some shoes or some gloves. And I came back home to Florida and my brother asked me why I stole his cleats and his gloves. And I'm like, how did I still be like how is it even possible? I've had these for over a year now. They've been in my trunk this entire time. He opened up his trunk and he had the matching cleats and the same exact gloves in the same that is like stacked on top of each other in the back of the trunk, exactly like mine, mirror image. And it's
wow.
been like that for over a year.
You
Yeah.
guys are basically twins.
Yeah. If
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 that
if
if that
if I
story
were to
true.
call him right now and ask him what he's wearing, he'll probably say a black shirt and some red pants.
Growing up, you mentioned all these different sports. What was the biggest thing sports taught you about yourself?
Um, wow. I will say the thing that it taught me the most about myself is I'm extremely rebellious.
Okay.
When the coaches would tell me that you can't, that would fuel me. It taught me like, you know what? Who are you to tell me what I can't do? Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that that stigma is now on me. So cool, thanks, coach. Now let me show you. And I actually made it to states in the 4x4, the 400, and I think I ran it in 49 seconds, which at the time was amazing. And my coach told me that I would never make it that far because I don't know why he didn't think so, but regardless of why, I had to show him differently. So it taught me that I was just when it came to utilizing my body, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever my mind tells me I can do.
That rebellious mindset, I always view it as a good thing because I utilize that today where someone tells me I can't do something, I want to show them that I can do it. And people always take that word rebel as a bad thing, and it's not a bad word. I mean, depending on the context of how that person's rebelling, but when it's us individuals that we're getting told we can't do it, you're never going to do it. I think it just shows how much more power we have and our abilities to go out there. And even when you shared it about the track and field, you mentioned earlier track and field was one of your favorite sports to do, and you were going to do anything to get to that accomplishment that you wanted to be featured at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, just like water, if you have too much of it's a poison.
Yep.
So just pushing away for a little bit, society has brainwashed us to redefine meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Like to these days, no is a curse word to children.
Yep.
How dare you say no, and how not realizing that no is to keep you protected. No is to help you understand that that's not the direction you need to be going to. It's a tool. But and just like rebellion is amazing as long as you're utilizing it the way it's supposed to be utilized.
Yep.
It's a tool.
Did you have any athletes? You talked about your mom being an inspiration for you, but any athletes, any other individuals that were inspiring, maybe in the sports world with playing all these different sports?
Yes. I will say yes. And I just had this conversation with my mother the other day because unfortunately, all of the inspiration I've always had when it came to athletes, every single one of them I found out cheated.
Oh,
So my biggest role model to this day, I don't care if he cheated, to this day, is Lance Armstrong.
okay.
By far my biggest role model. And a lot of people give me a lot of stigma because I say that, but people don't realize is, yeah, he may have cheated, but at that time, who he was to me is what pushed me on my bike. Who
Yep.
he was to me at that time is what made me, you know what, go until you get tired. And once you get tired, then turn around. So my 30-mile ride now was forced to turn into a 60-mile ride just because I needed to get back home. And even though, you know, he cheated and everything, it was a lie, Live Strong, the meaning that Live Strong was to me and so many other people, it was gravity that was pulling them into the direction to push them into who they are. So yeah, you know, he may have cheated, but it doesn't change the fact that he has still changed so many people's lives, including myself. So that was one. And then my number two is Marion Jones. To this day, whenever I would get onto the block to do my sprinting, I would do my little 3-4 jumps that she would do. I would shake my hand, shake my hand, put it, and I'd look up, I'd kiss my chain, and I just blow and exhale and just wait for the gun. That's what she did. I studied her every single time she would race. I studied it and I utilized it. And yeah, she cheated. But at that time, that is what got me into going to states in the 4x4.
Yep.
So yeah, so even though they cheated, it does not change the fact that they helped mold me into the person I am today.
No, and that's such an important part because a lot of times you don't hear about the things that they did until years later. So, like, even kids growing up, especially with Lance Armstrong, this big name in the cycling world. And then a couple years later, or whenever it happens, it was revealed, and it kind of thinks, oh, well, he loses credibility. Well, for that kid, they don't know anything of what's going on, why he did, and things like that. Not saying that what they did is a good thing, but those moments that those individuals had impacts a lot of people because they were inspiration to those people. But it's hard when you have that is the only thing we think about as Lance Armstrong is he cheated. Now, maybe what good things he did. And you brought up that Live Strong. I've seen so many people growing up with that band or the
The yellow
arm,
band.
the little wristbands with that phrase all over during that time. And that message was so huge in this world.
So to this day, I still have it, and
Yep.
it's coincidentally I just took it off for the first time yesterday, and I just haven't put it back on. I've had
Wow.
it on forever, and then I actually have it tattooed right here.
Oh, wow.
So every Live Strong, and to this day, people still give me a lot of hell for it, and I'm just like, listen, all that shows is that he's human too.
Yep.
A lot of people they like to put these inspirational people and put them on this platform of godly, and no, he's just a human just as well, you know. Yeah, he may have cheated, but it doesn't change the fact that he still felt pain. He still had to wake up and use self-discipline to wake up and get on. He still had to do a lot of things. It's just he did it the wrong way.
Yep.
You know, people think that it was just handed to him, handed to him, handed to him. No, he still had to earn something. He still had to put himself through some kind of mental strain. So, yeah.
A fun question we're always asked growing up is what's that dream job for us? Did you have a dream job that you wanted to pursue?
Yes, I wanted to be a marine biologist for the
Okay.
longest time. I've always been fascinated and interested with the water, the animal life. And my mom, you know, she was one of those strict parents who we grew up watching Discovery Channel. So if I couldn't be a marine biologist, I wanted to work in a zoo. I wanted to work with the lions. I wanted to be a part of helping anything, learning about it, you know, being, you know, even if I could learn about different diseases and what we can do to keep from having these diseases, I wanted to do it all. The only downfall with that is I am petrified of the ocean. And manatees are the nicest animals in the world. And I jumped into the water with the manatee and I almost had a heart attack. So that just wasn't my thing. It's interesting, but I'll love you from the other side of the cage.
Are you able to still have that passion for those things, having those fears of the ocean and being fear of the manatee and things like that? You talked about being outside of the cage. Do you still have that passion for wildlife, the marina, things like that from a distance?
I will say that the older I've gotten, the deeper and stronger the passion has gotten. Like it's to the point now where my mom's like, oh my God, there's a frog. And I have to catch it and I have to take it outside. There's a spider. I can't even get myself to kill spiders or anything unless it's defending something or somebody. You'll never see me cause any harm to any creature, regardless of how small it is or how big it is, how dangerous it is. No, because the thing is us as humans, we tend to forget that the reason why these creatures are doing the things that they're doing is it's all about survival. Yep. You know, they're not doing it intentionally to hurt you. They're just doing it because they don't know any better. So the same concept, you know, I just got to love you from a distance. Yep. So my passion has actually grown a lot to the point to this day. I still catch myself turning on National Geographic just so I can learn something new about the world, because these days, you're stuck with the TV screen, but you don't really know, like, how many times have you looked and like, wow, where did this animal come from? But it's been there this entire time.
Yeah.
It's just because you never experienced it or you've never explored. Now it's alien to you. No, it's been there forever. It's just, and so I love learning about life.
Especially, yeah, because you mentioned if it's on our phone, if it's on social media and we find it, we want to know more about it, even though, like you said, it's been out there, just we haven't realized it and things like that.
Yep.
After 18, you mentioned when you turned 20, you joined the military. Was there ever a different path before you got to, I'm going to join the military?
Yes. Yes. So a little backstory. Before I joined the military, I wanted to be in the athletics field. So I didn't know if I wanted to be a personal trainer. I didn't know if I wanted to be a massage therapist. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to be with something with pushing your body and then help rehabilitate, the body. So I actually went to school for massage. When I joined the military, that was a huge passion of mine ever since middle school. Like I graduated high school at the command sergeant major of ROTC. I was a team captain of the Raider team. I was always heavy onto the military. But then one day when I was 17 years old, I remember spending the night or 16. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember my grandmother, I was spending the night at her house and she was crying. And when she woke up, she said that she witnessed me dying in war. And that destroyed it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm never joining the military. I've never, because to see my grandmother cry in her sleep, saying my name, it's destructive. Well, I ended up dating a girl when I left massage therapy, and it was supposed to, I thought I was in love. She thought she was in love, but we didn't communicate as much as we should have. And she came to me one day crying and she says, I'm sorry, but I got to let you know that I'm going to North Carolina for AIT in the Army. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? She's like, because I didn't expect you to be so amazing. Oh. The day she left to go to North Carolina, I quit my job. I went to the recruiter's office. I walked in the door like I owned the place. And I said, I don't want to hear no lies. I don't want to hear y'all try to boost me up or anything else. Put me on the first flight out. Didn't even tell my mom. And they said, all right, cool. We have field artillery. You're leaving in 6 days. And I said, field artillery, good, I'll take it. And 6 days later, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Come to find out, the relationship was over before I was even done with basic training. But it pushed me into a different direction. So
Joining the military, what was the biggest thing you were hoping to accomplish personally? Was there a goal, a skill, something that you were trying to prove to yourself that you were able to do when joining, or was there another mission that you had in mind?
Um, my initial goal was honestly just to follow her. I wanted to finish basic training in AIT, and then I was going to propose to her because as a married couple, you're going to be stationed together.
Mhm.
So that was my initial goal. Once I realized that the relationship was done and I was now stuck, I used that as a tool of, all right, cool. Well, why am I here? I am here because I didn't have my priorities in check. I'm here because I was putting other people in front of me. I'm here because I was just being childish. So the military, what I wanted to do then is I wanted to be able to experience things to feel like a man. I wanted to feel like I was an adult. I wanted to feel like I basically stayed in the military simply because of a feeling. I didn't want to try to prove anything to anybody else, but I wanted to prove to me that I can. And
Mhm.
so that's why I did it.
Was there ever a challenge that you faced that made you second guess this decision, or kind of put a lot of fear in your minds?
No. I've experienced a lot in both of my deployments. So in Iraq, I was the quick response force down in Saddam's palace. I was the gunner on top of the trucks. I had a 240 Bravo Mark 19 or 50 cal, depending on the mission. And then in Afghanistan, I was a TED, a tactical explosive detection dog handler, and I found bombs right on the Pakistan border. Um, Doing that was extremely scary. I was in a lot of danger. We got bombed every night to the point where it was actually like clockwork. You would hear the bombs going. All right, mom. Well, the bombs are going. I'll be back tomorrow. That's how calm it was. But I will say that the biggest struggle that I actually had in the military was not war, was not the separation, was not the traveling. It was the leaders. My unit had such horrible leadership that I was forced to test myself. I had to work on my self discipline so that I wouldn't get myself in trouble by reacting to things that they were putting me through. Um, I had to work on my motivation because as you know, motivation is temporary.
Hmm.
It's how you treat things on your bad days that shows you who you are. So I would look at my bad days and I would learn from it. And I was like, all right, cool. This is how he reacted. This is how I reacted to his. What could I have done next time to keep from this happening? So next time it would happen, they would give me hell or they would try to do something instead of lashing out. Roger, Sergeant. Roger, Sergeant. Push, Rivera, push. Okay, Roger, Sergeant. And and I did everything with a smile on my face. And so yeah, there was a lot of things that I had, a lot of struggles I had in the military, but I thank God every day for me going into the military, going through those struggles, because of that, that's the reason why I'm the positive person I am. That's the reason why I'm the lover that I am. That's the reason why I am the protector that I am, because the things that I saw in the military was so painful that now I want to do everything I can to make the future better.
Do you feel the challenge with leaders and the path that you took, it kind of gave you the idea? We kind of talked about this before the recording about how you didn't want to be at the 9 to 5 job, but you wanted to be your own boss. Did that kind of start the whole, maybe I want to be my own leader, my own boss, and kind of have that control? Because in those situations, your control is on someone else's hands, and you can't have that voice to speak up, because in military it's probably not right to speak like that to a leader.
Yeah. I will say that no, that what I went through did not in the military did not make me not ever want to do the 9 to 5. Because at the time I didn't know anything more than a 9 to 5. You see people talking about being doctors or lawyers, well, they still have to clock in. So in
Mhm.
my head is you're always going to have to work. You're always going to have to clock in. You're going to have to work for somebody.
Mhm.
So that was never really a thought process in mind. But what I did know is I started to have E6s, E7s, well, sergeant first classes, other higher ranking soldiers coming to me for advice. And when I started seeing these people coming to somebody who's just a specialist in the military, asking me for advice, or coming to me when the lights are out and because they need somebody to talk to, I started seeing that, you know what, leadership is a lot more than just being in charge. Leadership
Yep.
is a lot more than just being a boss. Leadership is a teacher, is somebody who can guide. It has nothing to do if you're, oh wow, you're an E5, so I can never talk to this person, because you can learn a lot. Leadership is all about learning. Leadership is all about understanding. And so the military helped me understand how to be a great leader by having horrible leaders, because the things that I would feel when certain people would treat me certain types of ways, when I had the leadership position, now I know, you know what, we're friends now. You know, if you ever need something, your work, you know, we can get a lot farther if we work together rather than me just mushing you, because you're only going to give me the bare minimum. And so that's what I love about the military, because I did become a better person because of the struggles that I went through.
When did you know it was the time to change directions and leave the military and go to the next challenge or the next path or chapter in your life?
Afghanistan. Afghanistan, 100%. My first sergeant was by far, I'm not going to say any names, but my first sergeant was by far the worst leader that I've experienced in my entire life. So, and there was this one incident that told me that I would have to leave. Is in my unit, we had only 2 dog handlers, myself and my sergeant, and they wanted to have 1 dog per mission. So we'd have 8 or 9 missions, or units that go out on missions, and so they were coming home every day. But sometimes we just get tag teamed and handed off to another unit, and we'd be out for 3, 4, 5 days at a time with what we have packed, you know, to survive off of. And my first sergeant just happened to ride with one of my units, and I'm on day 3 or day 4, and I'm hot, I'm dirty, I'm sweaty, my dog doesn't have any rest or whatever. And all I did was simply just roll my sleeves up halfway up my arm, and I took my eye pro off, because your eye pro gets all foggy and stuff. And I'm looking for bombs, so I needed to be comfortable. And every 30 seconds, Rivera, put your eye pro on. Rivera, put your roll down your sleeves. Rivera, put your knee pads on, or roll your knee pads up. And I'm like, I'm trying to save y'all's lives, you know, but you're going off of the by the book. And I understand that, you know, knee pads are there for a reason, you know, but as of right now, the knee pads are keeping me from doing my job. Once we get into that situation, the knee pads, there's nothing to slide them up. Same with my eye pro, same with my sleeves. And the thing about a dog handler is when you're deployed, you can't have any animals come in contact with with the dog. So in Afghanistan, there's a ton of just random dogs, and what they do is they cut their ears off as puppies to make them more aggressive. So we had a moment where we had like 6 or 7 dogs howling and circling around us, and we had to take care of the dogs so that they wouldn't come and touch my dog, because if they touch my dog, I'm in quarantine for the next 3 months and they can't utilize me. Well, unfortunately, because my eye pro was fogged up, I can't see anything. Well, I see a big figure over here rushing towards me, and I don't know what to do. So I, point my gun out, and something's like, yo, take your glasses off. So I take my glasses off, and it's my first sergeant. I thought he was the dog. The moment we got the situation handled, he turned back at me and immediately wrote me an Article 15, which is, I think it's 2 months half pay and 45 days of extra duty, because I disobeyed a direct order, and not knowing that he almost died with them on me. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna learn from the self-discipline. I'm not going to react. I'm going to take this punishment, but because of this, I can't do this anymore, because I wasn't going to risk it. You know, you're already deployed, and deployments are hell as it is. why are you making things harder just because you're in charge?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my turning moment where I'm like, you know what, I'm done with the military. I can't do this anymore.
Were you nervous coming back with maybe not knowing what was the next game plan for you, or this was your opportunity to go out there, just enjoy, experience what's out there?
No, I wasn't nervous at all. Honestly, I was excited. The nervousness came once it happened. So the
Mhm.
best way I can put this is a lot of high schoolers, they're not looking at getting a job. They're not looking at, getting a house. They're not looking at none of this stuff until they cross the stage. And now they cross the
Yep.
stage and just like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So that's where I was at. Once I got out of the military and I moved back home, I'm like, yes, who do I talk to? How do you talk? How do you fill out a resume? From birth till 18 years old, you have your parents making all your schedules and everything else. And then when you join right out of high school, now you have sergeants telling you how to do all this stuff. Well, now here I am, a grown man. I don't know how to make a phone call to the doctors or dentists, and you don't know. So it was a huge trauma. I will say it was a trauma of mine because now, like to this day, I still have problems and I have to ask my mom for, answers, like, okay, well, how do you do this? Like, what do you mean you don't know how to do this? You're 34 years old. Oh, taught me, so that was where that was. But at the time, it was not a big deal at all. I was just excited to be getting away from all 80 moms that I had telling me what to do.
Yeah. In my intro for you, I mentioned you were an adventurous individual and you kind of talked about being a thrill seeker, enjoying all these different activities. What has been one of those activities that has kind of been eye-opening, amazing, and thrilling for you?
There's so many.
We can talk about.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So damn, the only way that I can express this is to tell you why I'm an adventurist. So one thing about me, and it's been thrown in my face with every single one of my relationships, which I don't know why, but I'm petrified of everything. I am to this day. I'm scared to get in a fight. I'm scared of hurting people's feelings. I'm scared of getting hurt. I'm petrified of everything. I'm extremely insecure, both, with my mindset and even my looks. I'm extremely insecure. Uh, but that is what makes me the adventurous person I am, because I learned that the only way you can overcome fears is by doing it.
Yep.
So I'm petrified of heights. Petrified of heights. So when I'm scared of heights, I jump out of planes. And there's an interview with Will Smith that he nailed it. I saw this interview, I think 2 years after I jumped out of a plane, and to this day I watch it regularly, like maybe once every month or so, just to get that feeling again. And he's like, why was I miserable the night prior in bed? I'm not, there's no reason to be afraid. I'm in my bed. Why am I afraid? Why was my breakfast miserable? Why was the drive to the airplane horrible? I couldn't even enjoy that. And even flying up in the airplane, it was beautiful. And he says that they count on a count of three, but they push you at two, because when you say three, you stop. And he says, but the moment he was in the point of no return, he says he was in utter bliss. So you're safe in bed, but you're miserable. You're safe in your car, you're miserable. But the moment of utter danger, you're at bliss. And he said this one thing, and it changed my entire perspective of life. God puts the most amazing things of life on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard that, I started writing down, what do you fear? You're insecure. So I started wearing spandex. I started wearing spandex all the time, to the point where people were like, why are you always showing off? Why are you always showing off? I'm not showing off. What I'm doing is I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable position so that now I don't have to be uncomfortable. I don't like being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I may have to, to test those waters and feel discomfort temporarily, but I would rather feel it temporarily and become a professional of being uncomfortable than letting it control my life. So there's a little bit more to that. Is after I listened to the interview and I knew I was insecure and everything else, I actually became a nude model at art classes. And yeah, and what ended up happening is one of the ladies, you know, she saw me sitting there shaking, and I had a huge smile on my face, and I was in a robe. And she was asking, she's like, "Is this your first time?" I said, "Yeah, this is my first time." And she's like, "Well, why are you doing this? You know, if this is something that bothers you, it doesn't bother me." And she's like, "Well, why are you doing this?" I said, "Because I want to jump out of a plane again." And then immediately I just dropped the robe. I, and the moment I did that, I was it's like a giant weight was lifted off of my back, and it was utterly amazing. And then, you know, of course, it was still hard, but then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day started getting easy and easy and easier. And before you know it, I was doing that for about a year and a half. Like
Wow.
they were calling me, sending me emails, requesting me to show up just because of how confident I was doing it, not realizing that I was deathly afraid. So that was one. I've told you I'm petrified of the water in deep ocean. So what did I do when I lived in Hawaii? I went on a boat and I went out 30, 45 minutes out, as deep as it can get. And I swam with sharks, petrified of sharks. Um, I'm petrified of my worst fear when it comes to animals are wasps. Anything that flies and stings, I do not mess with. I will let a wasp be in my backseat when I'm driving and I'm wrecking it just so I can kill the wasp. I'm petrified. But I was tower climbing. I faced my fear every day, and I would just one step at a time. Like, you got this, you got this, you got this. I trust my equipment. I checked it every time I go up there, and I'd go up there and I just experience it. And people are like, "Why do you do that? Why do you push yourself? Why do you do this? Why do you do this?" And I said, "Because life in one word is literally just experience. I
Mhm.
don't want fear to keep me from living. I don't want, you know, the fear of these heights." I said, "You're afraid of this, but you'll never see a sunset from that high. You know, you're petrified of this, but until you get to be there." And then it was really crazy is that once you get there, now everybody's thinking that you're like a superhero. No, I'm not. I allowed my courage to be a lot stronger than my fear. And that's, you know, so yeah, I've done it. I'm an adventurous just because I'm petrified of everything, and it's just a huge adrenaline rush. Like even in the military, when we would go and we have these really serious scenarios where it was extremely dangerous. Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, we didn't want to be there, but the moment we were safe, we're just like, "Ooh, can we go back just for a little bit longer?" You know. So yeah, so that's why I became an adrenaline junkie, because I love testing myself. I love being able to push myself through obstacles that frees a lot of people. I like to be able to keep moving when the body's telling you to stop, and it feels good.
Is there an item in the future that you want to do that's adventurous that you haven't done yet?
Ooh, honestly, I don't know. I could probably name a few things, but it's not necessary. Like all of the major ones I want to do, I've already done.
Mhm.
So now everything else is like, okay, cool. Well, you know, do you want to go white water rafting, you know, stuff like that. Like
Yes.
I would love to do, but it's not to the level of skydiving. So I think that
Yeah.
the hardest things I could have or would ever want to do, I already did, because you'll never see me to bungee jump. I'm never going to do that. I don't care how I am. I don't even want to face that fear. I'm not bungee jumping at all. but but everything else, I think I've already done the hardest things that I've ever wanted to do.
See, I want a bungee jump. I don't know. I keep getting all these videos on social media about it. I'm like, okay, that looks fun. That looks fun. Now I need to go find a place that does it. So I'm like always Googling, okay, what's the closest place I can go? I have to find better places because there's nothing near me. So
Oh,
I, I gotta find.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
But you mentioned whitewater rafting, and that's always been a dream because I see it and it's so thrilling. And my show is all about rising to a challenge. And those whitewater rapids, they're a challenge. I mean, they don't care who comes on a raft, they're going to challenge you. And I think when you get to the end of it, you become even stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And it's worth the experience.
It builds your confidence. It builds everything. Like of course, other than getting hurt, there's nothing that you can lose from attempting it.
Yep.
It's awesome. And that's why I can't wait to do it.
A big moment in your story, it was an accident. Talk about that moment and go through the mindset, the mental health through that experience.
All right. So I was I still remember like it was yesterday. I just left a chiropractor around 9:30 in the morning, and I was on my way to work. And it wasn't a motorcycle. I just say motorcycle just because when you say scooter, a lot of people like this to talk about the things that you stand on. But it was a pretty fancy high tech moped basically.
Mhm.
It was a scooter, and it was one of those that go up to like 70, 80 miles an hour or whatever. Well, I remember riding to work perfectly fine. I blink and I wake up and I'm in a hospital bed, and I have my mother and a doctor, and the doctor reaches over and he says, "Hey, do you know where you are?" And I said, "It looks like I'm in a hospital." He says, "Yeah, you were in a really bad accident on Monday." And I said, "What's today?" He says, "Today's Thursday." And I went, "What happened?" And he says, while you were riding, a work van did a U-turn and cut in front of you. And when it cut in front of you, you smacked directly in the side of it. And you don't have any road rash or anything else because you didn't slide. You literally hit it like it was a brick wall. And in the process, he says, "Be careful when you try to move, but your leg is broken. And you have a titanium rod from your kneecap to your ankle to be able to hold the bone in place." He says, "You broke your left elbow. So I have titanium that starts about halfway up my forearm, and then it comes all the way down to about the back of my bicep. And then I had a collapsed lung. I fractured my ribs. I fractured the left side of my face. I broke my neck, and then I also broke my lower back. And a month after my accident, I was complaining about my right leg, only to find out that even my right leg was snapped, and I was walking on it the entire time since my accident." So that was the physical portion of what happened in the accident. Mentally, I will say that the first month, I feel like I was possessed, and not possessed in the exorcist type way or whatever, but possessed as in the person who was in the accident died, and then something else came into me, which when it came into me, it took my memories. Or I still remembered the memories. It was still remembered all that I was addicted to, like anything that I wanted to do, all my bad habits. I remembered it, but I wasn't the same person, because instead of hitting the snooze button, I was enjoying waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I will say that the first month, I was actually maybe the first 2 months, I was so positive that people didn't understand what was going on. Like I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel frustration. Yeah, I felt a ton of pain, but even in the pain, I was so grateful for just being able to breathe. Me waking up and breathing was as if you were to look at your phone right now and look at your bank account and you were to have 6 zeros behind what you already have. That's what it felt like, just to breathe. And so, with that positive aspect, I think that's what helped me be able to push through the pain as the way that I did. I would force myself to get up and then just walk to the door and walk back and then sit down, and for the next 3 hours just recuperate from just doing that, because the pain was so excruciating. But I had a great positive mindset with it, because I was only in the hospital for a week. I was only in the
Wow.
hospital for a week, and from there they said, "You're good. Go back home." I moved there with my mom. They did say though, just be prepared. We don't want to diagnose you or whatever, but just be prepared to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair. And if you do get out of a wheelchair, you're going to need assistance. You're going to need crutches. You're going to need a walker. You're going to need a cane. You're going to need something. And I looked at the doctor, and I didn't tell him this at the beginning, but I ended up telling him this later on. But I wanted to say is, how do you get the strength to get out of bed if you never get out of bed? And so every time the doctors would leave, I'd get out of bed. Even if I just had to stand there, even if I had to just put my weight on my bones to push the bones together, even if I had to twist my shoulders, just something, I needed to do something. When it started to get extremely hard though, and this is the moment, the first time I even cried after the fact, and I think it was like maybe 3 months in, is when I had to get a CAT scan or something, whatever they do to be able to look at my neck, and they said it was so bad that I was going to need surgery immediately. Immediately. And when he said that, I call it, he put me through hell. Literally, I think when he told me that, I literally was in hell. So the way that I express this is, have you ever watched a movie where everybody's having fun? Woo! They're out drinking, whatever, and you see a girl take a drink, and then the next scene is her bound on a table in a dark room, and she's like, at first she's questioning it, like what's going on, but then it hits her. This is real. This is what's really going on. Him telling me that I needed neck surgery is that real moment of, wow, this is actually real. And that is the beginning stage of why a lot of people stay where they are at, because they accept it. I'm in this horror movie, I'm bound to this table, I can't fight, there's nothing for me to do. Well, then shoot, let me just ride it out. And what I told myself is, and I think it was about a week long, is the deeper I got into this depression, into this hell, the more I saw. But then one day, my positive mindset flicked, and everything that I saw flipped. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I may be in a part of a horror movie, but I'm also the director. Yeah. Let's turn this horror movie into something beautiful. And that's when hell started turning into heaven. That's when I started telling myself, you know what? You're not going to accept this. You're not going to allow people who aren't experiencing what you're experiencing or experience what you've already overcome. You're not going to have these people tell you what you can and cannot do. And it reminded, and I didn't have a choice but to remind myself of who I am. And I reminded myself is, oh, you survived Afghanistan, you just survived Iraq, you've survived swimming with sharks, you survived all of this. You have the ability to breathe. And as long as you have the ability to breathe, you have the ability to get up. And I got up. So within 7 weeks, it was excruciating, but I was able to hold my walker in my hand and take my first steps without any assistance.
Wow.
7 weeks later. Whew. Yeah, that was a rough time.
Looking at that journey you've been on, did you ever think you would get to where you are today with how you feel mentally, physically, and emotionally? Or during that time, did you think, I don't know what's going to happen 5 years or how many years down the road, things like that?
No, I never expected to be where I'm at today. I never expected to get back on a bike. I never expected to get back on speed skates. I just bought a pair of speed skates a month ago, and I've been riding them almost a lot. I never expected to be able to move without being in pain. I can do jumping jacks right now. I never expected that. But I will say that I treated every scenario as if I wasn't hurt. So I guess how they say, take things, one step at a time or day by day. That's literally all I did. Rather than looking at where I want to be, I just looked at this one step. And I do take this one step, and I'll take this other step, and then take this other step. And then on the process, all right, cool. Now I can do this. All right, well, what can you do that's a little bit harder? And I just did it one step at a time before now I'm here. And I don't even know how I got here. Yep.
For someone that's listening that's gone through an accident, what would you tell them to boost their mind, get them going, get them taking that first step into the direction that they want to go in?
What I would say is, you are the director of your own movie. You are the director of your own movie. And yes, I understand there are a lot of things that are permanent, but the great thing about being human is that we are phenomenal at adapting to things. You know, there's people who have been paralyzed from the neck down that became multi-millionaires. You have
Yep.
people with no arms and no legs that have a beautiful wife and kids, and and the only thing I can say to them is do not accept it. You know, yes, I understand that there are struggles, but you also have superpowers that are way better than those struggles. You know, you might have a great mind, you may have a great something to offer. A lot of people they tend to want that pity party, and it's
Mhm.
not to talk bad about people, but it's comforting. You know, when you go to AA meetings or whatever, they're oh wow, you're so strong, and oh wow, you're so amazing, oh wow, you're so this, and people want that rather than telling themselves that. You know, you have all of these people that are staying where they are just so they can hear it from other people. Well, my thing is this: is if you wake up every morning and you start telling yourself these things and you start believing it within yourself, nothing anybody else says is going to deter you. If anything, all the wow, you're so strong is just adding to what you've already did for yourself. Do
Yep.
not accept what you're going through. Do not accept what people will tell you. Don't, you know, and also understand that, just like I said earlier, struggle creates strength. A lot of people don't want to feel that pain. A lot of people don't want to feel that discomfort. A lot of people don't want to do that. And in doing so, that's why you have people who are like, wow, Adam, you're an inspiration. I don't think that I'm an inspiration. I really don't think that I'm an inspiration. I honestly feel that I'm doing what everybody else should be doing. So you know, like even now I have a lot of people that badmouth me, you know, like, oh, you're showing off, you're showing off, you're showing off, you're doing too much, you know, why you always have to post this, and why do you always have to do this, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm not showing off. What I'm trying to do is show you that it is possible. That's all I'm doing, because I don't need to show off, because I already have the confidence and the understanding of who I am within me. You know, I don't
Mhm.
need outside people to tell me that I'm strong. I don't need outside audiences to applaud me or cheer me on. No, I do my own applauding. I do my own cheering, and and so I want to go out there and show people that just because you're going through a struggle does not mean that this is the end of your road.
So, what does the future look like for you? What is Adam going to accomplish or looking forward to in the next few years, both personally and professionally?
Personally, I have already put into my brain that I am going to do my first competition in a triathlon by the middle or end of next year. I've already
Okay.
put that in my head. That personally, that's my goal is to be capable of doing what I was able to do before my accident. Personally, that's what I want to do. Professionally, I want to be a motivational speaker, or not necessarily a motivational speaker, because motivation, like I told you, is temporary. I want to be a transformational coach. You know,
Okay.
I want to be able to help guide people when the motivation isn't there. I want to be able to help teach people how to overcome their fears, overcome their insecurities, and honestly see life for what it really is. You know, I want to
Mhm.
go to mental health facilities, you know, and talk to what is this psych what therapists and stuff like that. I want to be able to talk to them and show them what I was able to do to get to where I'm at, so they could possibly utilize those tools to help somebody else. I
Mhm.
want to go to hospitals, you know, people who've been in similar accidents, if not worse accidents, and show them and boost their morale to help them get up and keep moving forward. I want to go to juvenile detention centers. I want to show the younger crowd that there's more to life than what you see on social media. Like, that's what I want to do professionally. I want to be able to help guide people into a better direction rather than just accepting what society is throwing out there. You know, oh well, you're supposed to only, you know, you're supposed to work 9 to 5, and you're supposed to have a job, and you're supposed to go to school, and you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. And I'm like, well, if that is the case, we wouldn't have all these inventions.
Hmm.
Because if everybody stuck to the script, we'd still be exactly where we were 500 years ago. You know, you need to be different. Yes, some school doesn't work for everybody else. Yes, all school is, in my honest opinion, is just is what is it? It's the building block. It's, you
Yep.
know, it's initially just telling you the basics. Utilize the basics and now add to it. You know, I feel that we all should go to school. I feel we all should read books. I feel that we should learn something, because knowledge is definitely power.
Hmm.
But I want to show people that this screen right here isn't there's so much more than the screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
The final question I'll ask you, for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
The best thing that I can say is to remind yourself what you learned as a child. As a child, how many times have you fallen and bumped your head? And the moment mom says, "All right, cool, you bumped your head, let's go inside." You're like, "No, no, no, no," and you just wiped it off and kept going.
Hmm.
You know, as a child, when you were in school, you had to raise your hand. You know, you raise your hand. The reasoning why is because it helped you learn communication. It helped you learn to listen before, you know, listen to understand rather than listening to respond. You know, as adults, we have all these arguments, you have all these breakups in relationships, all because everybody's listening to respond to you, and you're not even allowed to respond back. You know, how many times do you raise your hand when you're in school, but then you put your hand down because before she called on you, she answered the question. And it's
Yeah.
the same concept when it comes to road rage and the way that people are with this entitlement of having to wait. Well, you had to wait in line to get lunch at school, and you learned that no matter what place you were in, you still ate. You know, so that's the only thing I can say is to overcome your challenges is to just remind yourself of everything that you were taught as babies.
Yep. Well, Adam, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thank you so much. And honestly, I'm excited, and just like you, I'm excited to see where I go with this as well. And I'm really glad that you invited me to speak to you today.